Now this we're going to move through kind of quickly. It was alluded to before. We mentioned Isa Rashid. He was the co-discoverer, along with Billy, of what's known as the Talmud of Jmmanuel, co-discovered by them in 1963. This is given after they dig their way into what is an abandoned tomb near Jerusalem. It's very, very ancient. Stones on the floor. Unearth the stones. Pick up the resin-wrapped animal skins that are protecting the scrolls inside that are written, they find out, in Aramaic, which Isa Rashid just seems to know how to translate. He takes the scrolls. He runs back to Jerusalem, sequesters himself away, but he has to leave. He sends them off to Meier in 1970 after 7 years of work. In 74, he and his family flee to Lebanon. They sequester the scrolls in a house in a refugee camp. The Israelis come in. They destroy that camp. The scrolls are gone forever. Rashid and his family escape ultimately into Iraq, but not for long. They're assassinated, allegedly by the Mossad in 1976 in Baghdad. And in the scrolls, we learn that Judas Iscariot is the writer, but not the betrayer, of the man known as Emmanuel, who was never called Jesus in his entire life, never heard himself called that, but knew that he would be called that name, a false name, as it is told in the Talmud. Adam's father is said to be Semyaza, an El, or a god of the Old Testament, an extraterrestrial leader. We learn that indeed Emmanuel's father was named Gabriel. He was a Pleyaron. And that Emmanuel was the fifth prophet in a very specific lineage with a very specific task, and that he knew and that he had to walk through his own trial in the form of the crucifixion, which it is said here he survived, and that afterwards he travels to India with his family, a number of people. He marries an Indian woman, not Mary Magdalene, an Indian woman, and as they say, he bears numerous descendants. I think a son was named Joseph, who, after Emmanuel dies, many years, 70 years or so after the crucifixion, takes the scrolls back to the original tomb of the crucifixion and sequesters them under the stones, where they would be found 2,000 years later by Meier and Isa Rashid. In the Talmud of Jmmanuel, the coming of Muhammad and Islam as a cult that would degenerate and cause trouble for many centuries, that is foretold, as is the foretelling of land, water, and air vehicles that would be used for war, that there would be atomic and biochemical metallic projectiles. They said